Okay, so today we're going to do day 11, 5.6, linear equations, y equals mx plus b form. Today's learning goal is I can use the equation y equals mx plus b to represent a linear function that crosses the vertical axis. So remember, vertical is straight up and down, so the y-axis. Here you're going to need your Cornell notes. The equation of a non-vertical line can be written in the form y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So again, this is some review information. So you have this form. M simply represents the slope. B is the y-intercept. An equation written in the form y equals mx plus b is called slope-intercept form. So you need to put this in your Cornell notes. You can use a slope-intercept form to write and graph the equation of a nonlinear line. Okay, so the question says, write an equation in slope-intercept form for each line. Remember, slope-intercept form says y equals mx plus b. Remember, your b is your y-intercept, so first let's find that. Where we cross the y-axis is simply here at 1. Then, remember, m from a graph can be found by rise over run. So when we look at this, from our b value, and our next point where it crosses the grid is right here, we can rise 1, 2, 3, and we can run 1. So our rise over run is simply 3 over 1, which gives us 3. Now we can write our equation knowing that we have b and we have m. So our equation reads y equals 3x plus 1. Next question, part B. Again, we want the form y equals mx plus b. Let's look for b first. B is where our graph crosses the y-intercept, which is at 4. Then we look for our m. Again, remember, m is rise over run. We rise, or we rise about all the way to here is when our graph hits the grid again. So our rise is going down -2, and our run is going over 1. So therefore our rise is -2 over our run, which is 1. Therefore our slope is going to be -2 for this graph. So our equation should read y equals m, which is -2, x, plus our b, which is 4. Part C. Again, y equals mx plus b. Locate our b value, which in our case is right here where our graph crosses the y-intercept, which is at -3. Then we look for our m, which is rise over run. So we rise, let's check and see, there's our point that crosses the grid. We rise 1 unit, and we run 2 units. So our rise over run, our rise was 1, our run is 2. So our slope is 1/2. Our equation should read y equals m, which is 1/2, x, plus b, which is -3. The line models the relationship between a temperature in degrees Celsius and degrees Fahrenheit. What is the y-intercept of the line? What is the slope of the line? Write an equation for the line where x is a temperature in degrees Celsius and y is a temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So let's first highlight the information that we have. So we know that we want to first write an equation, or what is the y-intercept of the line is what they want us to find. And they also want us to find what is the slope of the line. Then they tell us to write an equation for the line where x is the temperature in degrees Celsius, y is the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So now let's try to see if we can find our y-intercept and our slope. So let's first identify what our y-intercept is. Remember where it crosses the y-axis. So it crosses the y-axis at 0 being x and 32. So that means that our y-intercept is going to be 32. Now let's look at our m value. Yes, we have a graph. However, it might be a little harder to see that we can do rise over run. So we have another form that we learned last week, being m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. We're given 2 points, so let's label them. Doesn't matter which you label. x1, y1. Say this is x2, y2. So use that information. Let's plug it in our formula. Our y2 is 104 minus my y1, which is 32, divided by my x2, which is 40, minus my x1, which is 0. So 104 minus 32 is 72 over 40. If we wanted to reduce this fraction, we'd get 9 over 5. You have to reduce it. So this tells me that my slope is 9 over 5 and my y-intercept is b. They want us to write an equation knowing that x is the temperature in in Celsius and y is the temperature in Fahrenheit. Well, we know our b and we know our m. So our equation, y equals our m value, which is 9 over 5, x plus my b value, which is 32. Hopefully this formula looks kind of familiar to you guys. The next example, the line is the graph of the equation y equals 9 over 5x plus 32, where x is the temperature in Celsius and y is the temperature in Fahrenheit. Find the Fahrenheit equivalent for 18 degrees Celsius. So if we know the equation says y equals 9 over 5x plus 32. Remember, we identified that our x value is our Celsius, our y is our Fahrenheit. Well, the question that we want to answer is, what is the Fahrenheit if the Celsius is 18? So in all reality, if we know that our x represents our Celsius, that means that x is given to us as 18 degrees Celsius. So we can take our x and plug it in our equation. So we have y equals 9 over 5 times 18 over 1 plus 32. And we're now solving for our y, which is our Fahrenheit. So we get 9 times 18, which is 162, over 5, plus our 32 over 1. Remember, we have to find common denominators. So by doing so, we're going to multiply the top and bottom by 5. So that gives us 162 over 5 plus 160 over 5. Now we can combine our common denominators. So y is going to equal 322 over 5, which is approximately 64.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is the value that's equivalent to 18 degrees Celsius. The next one says graph the equation. So first we want to identify what is our b value. Our b value is -5. Then we want to identify what is our slope. Our slope is 1 over 4, which is, remember, rise over run. So first I'm going to start with my b value, which is -5. So right here. And then from -5, I'm going to rise 1, and I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So from that point, I know that this is going to be the line of the graph. Simply graphing your slope and you're graphing your y-intercept with rise over run. So make those points a little darker. Now this one says, what is the graph of the equation y equals -2x plus 3? Again, remember, we're going to graph our b value first, which is 3, and then we're going to graph our slope, which is -2. It helps if we put -2 over 1, so we realize it's rise over run. So first graph your B value, which is 1, 2, 3. Then from your B value, count down 1, 2 units over to the right 1 unit. This forms our graph to our equation given. Okay guys, if you have any questions, please make sure you write them down so we can go over them tomorrow. See you later.